So if you ever wanted to put a texture on a section of an STL file here, then you probably know you can use fuzzy skin, and especially fuzzy skin painting. Just select the part, select the tool, select fill, and you might need to wiggle around with the smart fill angle, but in this case it's fairly easy. And just select that. If you made a mistake, there's erase all painting, and you can change the settings and try again. And just hit slice. And if that's too rough for you, you can change the settings here under the Others tab. Fuzzy skin point distance, maybe set that to 0.3 also. Slice again. And that looks much better. But what if you wanted to actually bake this texture into the STL file to make sure it would get printed like this every time? If you want to share it, upload it to Cults3D, or actually maybe have it printed via portals. So let me show you a quick hack how to do that with Fusion and Blender. So here's that test piece. Let me show you what I did here. It's fairly easy. I started with an ellipse that I extruded, and then I split this in two bodies with this line. And before I did this, actually, I took an offset surface of this part. So you just select all the surfaces, and this is like 0.5 millimeter inset, and you hit OK. To turn this into a body, you use the surface stitch feature, and you select that second body you can see in here in blue, and this will create a new body. And you can see here, there's the outer one and the inner one. We're only splitting the outer one, so we're left with this step. I will also add a little gap here of, I think it's 0.15 exactly, because when we add the texture to this part, the texture will grow, of course, and to have a nicer separation between the two, that's why I put this gap here. You can play around with these values as you want. Kind of depends on your scenario also. And I put a little radius on here, and I merged the two bodies here into one, and we have the other body here, and that creates a nice overlap because we're going to merge them back together later. And if we don't have a fairly good overlap here, that's going to be tricky, and it's going to make the print take much longer, because then it'll print details on the inside that we don't even want. So exporting this as an STL, I would recommend using the right-click menu here on a body, save as mesh, because then you also have the control settings. So we'll export that as the grip, and we'll right-click here, save as mesh. Refinement settings are set to high, that's good. And we'll call this main body. And that's basically it in Fusion. Let's jump into Blender. So welcome to Blender. I'm using version 4.5.1 LTS. And the first step we're going to do here is hit A and delete all these standard components that we don't need. Then we'll drag in the main body and the grip at the same time. And we have to pay attention to the forward and up axis. In Fusion, X is forward and Y is up. And we'll import that. And ooh, it's kind of in your face, but that's not a problem. Okay, here we go. And we'll just select the grip and apply a modifier. And that will be the remesh as the first step. And I'd advise for a 0.2 voxel size here. Otherwise, the file size gets really big. Of course, the lower this number, the higher the resolution, and also the bigger the file size. So 0.2 will be enough, and we'll add another modifier, and that will be under deform and displace. Just hit the plus here under new texture and go down to the texture properties. We will just select in this drop down clouds, and I would advise to set this to color. That'll make it a bit softer, and you can play with the size here. I used 0.5, that worked well, but then go back to the displacement modifier here again and set the strength to 1.5. That might look a bit strong to you, but remember this thing is only the size of a lighter. One more thing we have to do here is pick the main body and also add a modifier here. And that will be under Generate and Boolean. Pick Union and take the eyedropper tool and select the grip, and it'll jump here in a second. The outline will show you that it worked. And now we can apply this modifier. So now this is all one mesh. So we're almost ready to export to STL here. One more thing we need to do before is either we hide all the other components, or we select what we want to export and go to File, Export STL, and we can check this selection only box, and then it'll only export what we selected, obviously. Also, if you're working with modifiers, it's good to know there's an Apply Modifiers box here for exporting. And that's all we had to do in Blender. Of course, you can play with the settings here of that grip. Here are some test samples that I did. And you have to remember that the 3D printer, of course, will smoothen all that out. So I highly recommend doing some print tests on the settings that you chose. And of course, you can also play with the size here in the texture. But for me, the 0.5 combined with a 1.5 strength factor worked really well. Let's jump into the slicer. So I kept this fuzzy skin painted part in here for comparison. And let's load the texture test that we just created. And you can see it imports nicely here. And all we need to do now is slice and compare the results. And you can see here, this looks fairly similar. And well, that's all we wanted. And don't get shocked by this printing time. This is of course because there's two different colors selected here. If we select the same filament here and slice again, print time is not going to be longer. Yeah, see, this prints in 1 hour for these two. That's not terrible. And yeah, that's how you bake your texture into your STL with Fusion and Blender. I hope that helps you. Let me know in the comments how this worked out for you, or if it didn't, and I'll be happy to help if it didn't. Blender can be tricky because there's so many settings, and if you mess one up, then things will go sour. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me introduce you to Werk, the sponsor of today's video. Based in Copenhagen, Werk is a contemporary kitchenware company dedicated to developing honest and high-quality tools for everyday use. Follow the link in the description or go to werk.com and sign up for the newsletter to get 10% off your first order.